Olivia Bennett had always been a quiet fighter. Long before anyone knew her name, she had learned how to keep moving when the world tried to stop her. She grew up in a small town in Ohio where winters were long and cold, but her spirit was warm. As a child, Olivia was the one who shoveled the neighbors' driveways before dawn, not because anyone asked her to, but because she liked the challenge. Her father, a postal worker, often said, "You finish what you start. Live." Those words lived inside her like a steady heartbeat. When she was 18, Olivia surprised almost everyone by joining the United States Navy. Her friends expected her to go to college and maybe teach history, but she wanted something bigger, something that tested every part of her. During basic training, she kept quiet, listened carefully, and worked harder than anyone else. The instructors noticed her calm way of handling stress. When others shouted or panicked, she breathed deeply and kept going. Over the next few years, Olivia set her eyes on the toughest goal in the Navy, the SEALs. At that time, very few women even tried. Many people told her it would be impossible. But she remembered her father's voice, "Finish what you start." She trained in the dark before sunrise, running miles with heavy packs, swimming in icy water, pushing her body until it ached. She failed some tests and came back stronger the next time. Slowly, quietly, she earned her place. Her teammates learned that Olivia was more than strong. She was steady. On dangerous missions, when fear filled the air, her voice remained calm. They trusted her completely. One mission in particular would stay with them forever. It happened on a stormy night along a foreign coast. A small village was collapsing after an unexpected landslide. Families were trapped in broken houses near the shore, waves crashing hard against the rocks. The team's job was to find survivors before the tide rose. Olivia led the way through dark water and shifting ground. She carried a child on her back while guiding two injured villagers with a flashlight clenched between her teeth. When a section of the cliff began to fall, she shouted quick instructions that saved her teammates' lives. By dawn, every person they had come to rescue was alive. The Navy later awarded Olivia the Silver Star for her courage. To her, the medal was not about glory. It was a symbol of teamwork, of the night when fear had to wait while people were saved. She kept it in a simple wooden box next to photos of her parents and her team. Years passed. During a routine training exercise, a sudden accident changed everything. A fast-moving boat slammed unexpectedly against a dock, throwing Olivia hard against a metal railing. The injury to her lower back was serious. Doctors tried surgery, but the pain remained. She could walk, even run on good days, but long missions were impossible. The Navy honorably discharged her, and she returned to civilian life. Olivia built a new rhythm in Virginia, near the quiet Chesapeake Bay. She volunteered at a community center for veterans, teaching self-defense classes and helping others adjust to life after service. Neighbors admired her kindness. Children loved the way she turned training drills into games. She missed the intensity of the SEALs, but she found peace in helping others. Then, one gray morning, a letter arrived. It came in a heavy envelope with the seal of a federal courthouse. She thought it might be about a veteran's benefit. Instead, the words on the page made her stomach twist. "You are hereby ordered to appear before the Honorable Judge Raymond Cole regarding the status of your Silver Star commendation." The letter explained, in cold legal language, that a review of certain mission records suggested procedural irregularities in the award of her medal. In plain words, someone claimed the Silver Star should never have been given to her. Olivia read the letter twice. Her hands trembled. That medal represented nights of training, the lives she had helped save, the faith of her teammates. It was not just a piece of metal. It was a story of courage. Friends urged her to fight the claim. Her former commanding officer, Commander William Harris, called and said, "This is nonsense. We all know what you did that night." But lawyers explained that the process could be long and expensive. The Military Review Board had already passed the matter to a civilian court. Despite the cost, Olivia felt a slow burn of determination. She had faced enemy fire. She would not hide now. She gathered statements from teammates, letters from villagers she had rescued, and official reports. She prepared as if for another mission, careful, steady, focused. The courthouse in downtown Norfolk was tall and gray, with cold marble floors that echoed footsteps. On the morning of the hearing, reporters waited outside, cameras ready. Olivia wore a simple navy suit and carried herself with quiet strength. Inside the courtroom, the air smelled faintly of polished wood and old paper. Judge Raymond Cole sat high behind his bench, a man known across Virginia for strict rulings and an unyielding manner. He wore thin glasses and a heavy black robe. He barely looked at her as the session began. Government lawyers argued that a missing piece of mission documentation made the award invalid. They admitted the rescue had happened but insisted that the official paperwork was flawed. Olivia's lawyer spoke firmly about her service and the lives saved. Several of her teammates testified by video, describing the night of the rescue and Olivia's leadership. Yet Judge Cole remained expressionless, tapping a pencil against his notes. After hours of dry arguments, the judge delivered his decision. His voice was calm but sharp. While the court recognizes Ms. Bennett's service, the record shows procedural defects. The Silver Star was, by regulation, improperly granted. The award is hereby revoked. The gavel struck wood with a hard crack. The room went silent. For a moment, Olivia simply breathed. The words cut deep, but she would not give the judge the satisfaction of seeing her break. She stood, thanked the court with quiet dignity, and walked out while reporters shouted questions. Outside, the autumn sky had turned a soft orange. The courthouse steps felt heavy beneath her boots, but her back was straight. Friends waited at the bottom, offering hugs, but she simply said, "Not yet." Her mind was already turning. The judge thought the matter was finished. He believed a ruling on paper could erase years of service. But Olivia Bennett had faced storms stronger than words. She knew the truth of that night on the foreign coast. She knew the families she had saved, the teammates who still called her their leader. As she stood in the fading light, she felt something stronger than anger, a deep, steady determination. The Silver Star was gone from her record, but her honor was not his to take. And in that quiet moment, Olivia decided she would not stop here. The judge had ended the hearing, but he had also begun something he could not control. The night after the hearing, Olivia Bennett sat alone in her small Virginia kitchen. Rain tapped against the windows, soft but steady, the kind that could keep a person awake. On the table lay a neat stack of papers, court documents, witness letters, and the official notice that her Silver Star had been revoked. The medal itself rested inside its wooden box, the ribbon still bright under the kitchen light. Technically, the court had ordered her to return it, but she had not moved it from its place. To Olivia, the Silver Star was not government property. It was proof of lives saved and of a night when courage had been stronger than fear. Her phone buzzed. "Commander William." Harris's name appeared on the screen. She answered quietly. "Olivia," he said, his voice heavy with frustration. "I still can't believe this ruling. Everyone in the Navy knows what you did that night." "I know," she replied, "but the judge doesn't care about truth. He cares about paperwork." There was a pause. Then Harris said, "There may be another way, not through the courts, through the truth itself." Those words stayed with her long after the call ended. Searching for strength over the next few days, Olivia kept to a strict routine. She woke early, stretched to ease the pain in her back, and walked along the quiet Chesapeake shoreline. Each step in the cold morning air sharpened her thoughts. She refused to sink into bitterness. Instead, she looked for a path forward. Friends visited to offer comfort. Her neighbor, Maria Thompson, brought homemade soup and gentle advice. "People need to know your story," Maria said. "Not just the Navy. Everyone." Olivia nodded but said little. She was considering something larger than a simple news interview. The judge had tried to erase her record. To fight back, she would have to show the world evidence so strong it could not be ignored. That night she opened an old storage box filled with items from her SEAL years. Inside were field notes, mission maps, and a small waterproof camera she had carried on the rescue. The camera's memory card was still intact. Her breath caught as she viewed the photos. Images of the stormy shoreline, the collapsed homes, the villagers she had guided to safety. Her teammates appeared in several frames, faces lit by headlamps, eyes steady and focused. These pictures were not classified. They were her own record, proof of the night the Silver Star had honored. She realized she held something powerful. Gathering allies the next morning, Olivia called two of her former teammates, Marcus Hill and Daniel Reed. They had both testified in court. But now she asked for more. Would they be willing to speak publicly, even if it meant challenging a federal judge? Of course, Marcus said without hesitation. Daniel agreed as well. We were there, he said firmly. Nobody can rewrite that. Together, they reached out to the families from the village they had rescued. Through a network of humanitarian workers, Olivia located the family whose child she had carried on her back that night. The father remembered her clearly and promised to send a written statement, along with a short video message of thanks. Meanwhile, Maria introduced Olivia to a respected investigative journalist named Thomas Green. He had once covered military operations and was known for careful, honest reporting. After hearing her story and seeing the photographs, Green said, "This isn't just about a medal. It's about how truth survives when systems fail." He proposed a series of detailed articles and a public interview. Olivia agreed, but only after insisting that every fact be carefully verified. She wanted no exaggeration, only the plain truth, a growing storm within a week. Green's first article appeared online and in print. The headline read, "Navy Hero's Silver Star Revoked Despite Evidence of Life-Saving Mission." The story spread quickly. National newspapers picked it up, and morning news shows asked Olivia for interviews. She appeared on camera with calm dignity, describing the mission and the villagers' rescue. She never attacked the judge by name. Instead, she focused on the facts. Viewers were moved by her steady voice and the clear photographs of that stormy night. Letters of support poured in from veterans groups across the country. Even members of Congress began to ask questions about the court's decision. Judge Raymond Cole, who had expected the matter to fade quietly, now found himself at the center of public attention. Reporters waited outside his courthouse, asking for comments. He released a short statement insisting his ruling had been purely procedural, but the pressure only grew. A new kind of mission. Despite the sudden fame, Olivia kept her daily life simple. She continued volunteering at the community center, teaching classes and listening to other veterans' stories. But late at night, she worked with Green and her teammates to collect every possible piece of evidence. Mission logs, radio transcripts, and sworn statements from the villagers overseas. Each document built a wall of truth around the story. One evening, Marcus called with unexpected news. A retired Navy admiral, impressed by Olivia's courage, wanted to help. He offered to present her case directly to the Secretary of the Navy. It would not overturn the judge's decision immediately, but it could spark an official review at the highest level. Olivia felt a mix of hope and caution. She had learned in the military that success was never guaranteed. Still, she accepted the admiral's offer. This was not about pride, she reminded herself. It was about protecting the honor of everyone who had served with her. The judge feels the heat by the second week. The national conversation had shifted. Editorials questioned why a decorated veteran had to fight for recognition of a rescue that witnesses and photographs clearly proved prominent. Legal scholars criticized Judge Cole for ignoring the substance of the mission in favor of minor paperwork errors. Inside his chambers, the judge reportedly grew tense. Court staff noticed his short temper and the stack of letters arriving daily. Though he remained silent publicly, colleagues said the scrutiny unsettled him. He had believed the case was simple. Now he faced the reality that the world disagreed. Olivia, meanwhile, stayed focused. She told friends, "This isn't about revenge. It's about the truth standing where it belongs." A turning point 3 weeks after the first article, the Secretary of the Navy announced a formal review of Olivia's Silver Star. The announcement praised her bravery and cited the overwhelming evidence presented by former teammates and civilian witnesses. The statement ended with a promise to correct any injustice. When Olivia heard the news, she felt a quiet relief but not celebration. The journey was not finished, but a door had opened. She thought of the villagers she had saved, the teammates who still stood with her, and the calm voice of her father. "Finish what you start." That night she returned to the shoreline where she often walked at dawn. The moonlight shone on the water, and the air carried the smell of salt and pine. She stood there for a long time, breathing deeply. The fight was far from over, but she knew she was no longer alone. The announcement from the secretary of the Navy echoed across news stations the next morning. Headlines: praised Olivia Bennett for her courage and questioned why a judge had ever tried to remove her medal. Reporters filled the street outside her small Virginia home. Some held cameras, others notebooks, all asking for a statement. Olivia stepped onto her porch in a plain gray sweater. She thanked the crowd for their interest but kept her words short. "The truth is what matters," she said calmly. "This isn't only my story. It belongs to everyone who served beside me." Then she turned and went back inside, leaving the reporters to whisper about her quiet strength. Judge Cole's uneasy morning across town. Judge Raymond Cole entered his chambers to find a stack of letters on his desk, hundreds of them. Some were from veterans describing their own service. Others came from ordinary citizens who simply believed that honor should not be lost to paperwork. Cole's clerk, nervous and pale, said, "Sir, more keep arriving every hour." The judge gave no reply, but inside he felt a pressure he had not known before. He prided himself on being untouchable, a man of the law immune to public opinion. Yet the steady stream of criticism, the editorials questioning his judgment, and the possibility of an official Navy review unsettled him. His decisions were supposed to stand firm. Now the foundation felt less certain. A network of support. Meanwhile, Olivia's allies grew stronger. Marcus Hill and Daniel Reed, her former teammates, continued speaking with national news outlets. They described the mission in vivid detail: the roar of the ocean, the falling cliff, Olivia's clear orders that kept them alive. Their accounts matched perfectly, leaving little room for doubt. Maria Thompson, the neighbor who had first encouraged Olivia to share her story, organized a community gathering at the local Veterans Hall. More than 200 people came, some traveling from other states. They listened as Olivia spoke quietly about service, sacrifice, and the importance of truth. Children presented her with a handmade banner that read, "Honor cannot be taken." After the event, an elderly Marine approached her. "I've seen plenty of medals," he said, his voice rough with age. "But character like yours, that's rarer than gold." Olivia smiled, moved by the simple words. Building the case, Thomas Green, the investigative journalist, continued his careful work. He obtained mission logs from military archives, each stamped with official seals. The documents confirmed the timeline of the rescue and the names of those saved. Green also found internal Navy emails from years ago praising Olivia's actions and recommending the Silver Star long before any paperwork dispute arose. Together, Olivia and Green prepared a detailed report for the Navy's review board. It included photographs, sworn statements, and the villagers' video messages of gratitude. Every page told the same story. The mission was real, the bravery undeniable. Quiet moments of doubt, yet even as support grew, Olivia sometimes felt the weight of doubt. Late at night, when the house was silent, she wondered if the fight would ever truly end. What if the review board took months or even years? What if public interest faded and the judge's ruling remained on record? On one such evening, she walked along the dark shoreline, the moon reflecting on the waves. The cold air stung her cheeks, but she welcomed it. She thought of her father's old advice: finish what you start. The words steadied her once more. She returned home resolved to keep moving forward, one step at a time. An unexpected call one Friday morning. Her phone rang with an unfamiliar Washington, D.C. number. When she answered, a warm, firm voice introduced himself as Admiral Charles McKenna, a senior Navy leader overseeing the review. "Ms. Bennett," he said, "I wanted to tell you personally that the evidence you and your team have provided is thorough and compelling. The board will meet soon to make a formal recommendation. I cannot promise an exact date, but you should know your case is being treated with the highest respect." Olivia thanked him, feeling a quiet surge of relief. After the call, she sat by the window for a long time, watching sunlight stretch across the water. The fight was not over, but hope felt closer than ever. The Judge Reacts news of the upcoming Navy review reached Judge Cole through legal channels the same week. He read the reports in silence, but those close to him noticed the tightness around his jaw. Colleagues said he became unusually quiet during meetings. He began spending late hours in his office, studying legal books and past rulings, perhaps searching for reassurance that his decision could withstand the coming storm. Some local lawyers whispered that Cole feared a formal complaint might be filed against him for mishandling the case. Though no such complaint yet existed, the possibility hovered like a shadow over his once unshaken confidence. A nation watches as days passed. The story moved beyond military circles. Major newspapers ran editorials titled "Honor on Trial," and "When Paperwork Fails, the Brave." Television commentators debated the balance between law and justice. Viewers sent messages of support from across the country. School children wrote letters thanking Olivia for her service. Olivia remained humble. When asked on a morning show how she felt about the growing attention, she replied, "I'm grateful, but this isn't about fame. It's about making sure service members know their sacrifices are respected." Her calm sincerity only deepened public admiration. Preparing for the review, the Navy scheduled the official hearing for early spring. To be held in Washington, D.C., Olivia, Marcus, and Daniel planned to attend together. Thomas Green arranged to cover the event, promising to present facts without drama. Before the trip, Olivia visited the small village where she had grown up in Ohio. She spent time with her parents, walking the familiar streets where she had first learned the meaning of persistence. Her father, older now but still strong, placed a hand on her shoulder. "No matter what they decide," he said, "the truth is already yours." Those words filled her with quiet strength as she prepared for the next stage. A subtle shift back in Virginia. Subtle signs suggested that Judge Cole's own career might be changing. Legal blogs reported that a panel of senior judges had begun an informal review of recent controversial rulings, including his. No official statement named him directly, but insiders recognized the implication. Cole kept working, but those who met him said he seemed distant, as if weighed down by something he would not admit. For the first time in years, he faced the possibility that a decision he made could damage his reputation more than any outside critic ever could. That winter evening, Olivia stood again on the quiet shoreline near her home. The wind carried the scent of salt and pine, and the moonlight touched the gentle waves. She felt the vast strength of the ocean and the steady beat of her own heart. The path ahead remained uncertain, but she knew one thing clearly: honor could be challenged, questioned, even delayed, but it could never truly be taken away. The early spring morning in Washington, D.C., was cool and bright when Olivia Bennett stepped out of a taxi in front of the Navy headquarters. Cherry trees along the street showed small pink buds, a quiet promise of warmer days. Beside her walked Marcus Hill and Daniel Reed, both wearing their dress uniforms. Reporters lined the walkway, cameras ready, their voices a soft murmur that rose and fell like the tide. Olivia wore a simple navy blue suit. She carried no medal, no extra symbols, only a folder filled with mission reports and photographs. Her calm expression hid the slow thrum of nerves inside her chest. "Ready?" Marcus asked, his voice steady. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. Inside the hall, the review board's chamber was large but not grand. Polished wood tables, the Navy crest on the wall, a row of flags behind the panel of senior officers. Admiral Charles McKenna sat in the center, flanked by two other high-ranking officers. Their faces were serious but not unfriendly. The session began with a formal reading of the case. An officer summarized the rescue mission, the earlier court ruling, and the new evidence Olivia and her team had provided. His voice was firm but neutral, like the steady rhythm of a ship's engine. When it was Olivia's turn to speak, she rose slowly, mindful of the old injury in her back. She looked at the officers, then at the quiet crowd of journalists and veterans seated behind her. "I'm not here to argue for myself," she began, her voice clear and calm. "I am here to make sure the record of that night belongs to everyone who risked their lives and to the families we saved. The Silver Star was never just mine. It stands for all of them." She described the storm, the collapsing cliffs, the villagers guided through darkness. She spoke of teamwork and quick decisions, of the child she carried through waist-deep water. Her words were simple, free of drama, but each sentence carried the weight of truth. Marcus and Daniel followed with their own testimony. They confirmed every detail. their voices strong with memory. Photographs of the mission glowed on a large screen. The broken shoreline, the team's determined faces, the rescued families wrapped in blankets at dawn. The villagers' video messages played next. In one, the father of the child Olivia had saved held up a drawing his son had made of the brave lady with the flashlight. The hall grew silent. A nation watches outside. Television crews broadcast the hearing live. Across the country, people in homes, schools, and military bases watched the quiet drama unfold. Social media filled with messages of support. Honor her. Truth matters. Paperwork can't erase courage. Even some legal commentators who had once defended Judge Cole's strict view of procedure now admitted that the evidence was overwhelming. Judge Cole's private struggle back in Virginia. Judge Raymond Cole followed the coverage from his office. The glow of the television reflected in his glasses as he listened to the testimonies. At each new piece of evidence tightened the knot in his chest. He remembered the day he issued his ruling, how sure he had been that the law was on his side. Now, as the nation watched Olivia with admiration, he began to question the narrow path he had chosen. He closed his office door and sat in silence long after the hearing paused for lunch. For a man who had always believed that the letter of the law was enough, the realization was unsettling. Sometimes justice required more than paperwork. The board decides late in the afternoon. Admiral McKenna called the room to order. The officers spoke briefly among themselves. Then the admiral delivered the decision. After a full and careful review, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber, this board finds that the actions of Petty Officer First Class Olivia Bennett fully merit the award of the Silver Star. The revocation is overturned. The commendation is hereby reinstated and will remain in the official record of the United States Navy. Quiet wave of relief swept through the hall. Reporters scribbled furiously. Marcus and Daniel exchanged a proud glance. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words settle like calm water after a storm. When she opened them, Admiral McKenna was smiling slightly. Ms. Bennett, he added, on behalf of the Navy and the people of this country, thank you. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. The sound was strong but warm, not the roar of victory but the deep respect of a nation. After the hearing outside the building, the evening sun lit the city in a soft golden glow. Reporters surged forward with microphones, but Olivia paused only to say, this medal belongs to everyone who served with me. Today is for them, not just for me. Then she stepped away, walking with her teammates toward the quiet of a side street. They found a small cafe away from the crowd. Over coffee, Marcus raised his cup. To the truth, he said simply. To the truth, Olivia echoed, feeling a gentle pride that had nothing to do with fame. The judge faces the mirror that night in a quiet house miles away. Judge Cole read the Navy's official statement. He set the paper down and stared out his window at the dark Virginia sky. For the first time in decades, he questioned not only a ruling but the way he measured justice. Letters of criticism still arrived. Daily colleagues whispered that an ethics committee might soon review his conduct. The career he had built on certainty now felt fragile. Cole did not speak publicly, but those near him sensed a change, a man forced to face the difference between law and fairness. Olivia's reflection, back in her hotel room. Olivia placed the Silver Star back into its wooden box. The metal gleamed softly under the lamp the same as before, yet it felt different now. It was no longer only a memory of one night's courage. It was proof that truth could endure. She thought of the villagers, her teammates, the letters from schoolchildren, the quiet support of strangers across the country. Their faith had carried her through. Later, she stepped onto the hotel balcony. The city lights shimmered like a distant sea. A gentle breeze moved through the early spring air. She breathed deeply, feeling both the long weight of the struggle and the calm of its resolution. Honor, she realized, was not something given or taken by a court. It lived in the steady hearts of those who knew the truth. The morning after the hearing, Washington, D.C. shimmered with a soft spring light. Olivia Bennett awoke before dawn in her small hotel room, the echoes of yesterday's applause still lingering in her memory. For the first time in many months, she felt the quiet relief of a mission complete. The silver star now rested safely in its wooden box on the nightstand. Yet Olivia knew her story was not only about a medal, it was about honor, persistence, and the people who had stood with her when the truth was challenged. She brewed a cup of tea and stepped onto the balcony. Below, the streets of the capital hummed with early traffic. Across the city, cherry trees glowed pale pink. She breathed in the cool air and thought of the long road that had brought her here, from a stormy coastline years ago to the tense courtroom in Norfolk, and finally to yesterday's victory. Marcus Hill and Daniel Reed had promised to meet her in the hotel cafe for breakfast. When she entered the lobby, they were already there, uniforms neatly pressed, eyes bright with quiet pride. "You look rested," Marcus said, standing to greet her. "I feel lighter," Olivia admitted, smiling, "but I also feel unfinished." "This can't be the end," Daniel nodded. "It's not. People everywhere are talking about what happened. They see that paperwork isn't stronger than truth. Maybe we can use this attention to help other veterans who get lost in the system." Olivia listened carefully. She had been thinking the same thing. A visit home. 2 days later, Olivia returned to her small house near the Chesapeake Bay. The familiar smell of salt water greeted her as she stepped inside. Her neighbor, Maria Thompson, waited with a welcoming hug and a fresh pie. "The whole town watched the hearing," Maria said warmly. "You showed everyone what real courage looks like." Olivia placed the silver star back in its usual spot on the shelf, beside photos of her parents and her team. The medal's surface caught the afternoon light, but it no longer felt like a prize. It felt like a responsibility. That evening she walked the shoreline as she often did, the gentle waves lapping at the sand. The ocean had always been a place of calm for her, a reminder that the world was vast and steady, no matter the noise of human conflict. She thought about the letters she had received, from school children, veterans, and even strangers overseas who had followed her story. Many of them asked how they could help others who faced similar battles for recognition or fair treatment. Olivia sensed a new mission forming, one that would demand patience and heart rather than physical strength. The judge in the shadows, while Olivia found peace by the water, Judge Raymond Cole faced a different kind of silence. His once orderly chambers felt heavy with unease. Each morning, more letters arrived, some polite, some sharply critical. Colleagues he had known for years spoke carefully around him, their words measured. He reread the Navy's official statement late at night. The board's decision was final and public. Editorials in major newspapers questioned his ruling, suggesting that strict adherence to procedure had blinded him to justice. Cole had always prided himself on separating emotion from law, but now he wondered if he had confused caution with fairness. He thought about the young woman he had seen in his courtroom, calm, respectful, carrying the quiet authority of someone who had truly served. He remembered the steadiness in her eyes even as he announced the revocation. For the first time in decades, Cole began to doubt not just a single decision, but the way he measured right and wrong. A call from the Admiral. One crisp morning, Olivia received an unexpected phone call. Admiral Charles McKenna's deep voice came through the line. "Petty Officer Bennett," he said formally, though warmth colored his tone. "The Secretary of the Navy has asked me to pass along his gratitude. He also wonders if you might consider serving in an advisory role, helping us improve how we review commendations and care for veterans after service." Olivia was surprised. "Advisory role?" "Yes. Your experience and perseverance have already inspired many. We need voices like yours to guide policy, to ensure that no one else faces what you faced." She promised to think about it. After the call, she sat quietly with a cup of coffee, reflecting on the idea. The Navy had been her family once. Perhaps in a different way it could be again. A community gathers. Weeks passed and spring deepened. Olivia accepted invitations to speak at veterans' halls, schools, and community centers. She never sought applause. Instead, she spoke about integrity, the importance of documenting service, and the quiet strength of standing for truth. At one event in Ohio, near her childhood home, she faced an audience that included her parents, old neighbors, and many young cadets. She began simply, "Honor is not something a court can give or take. It lives in what we do for others and in how we carry our memories." The room was silent, every face attentive, Afterward, dozens of people came forward to thank her. A young Navy recruit said, "Your story shows us that we can fight for what's right even after we leave the battlefield." Olivia smiled, sensing that her own journey was now a guide for others. Marcus and Daniel's idea. During a quiet evening at Olivia's house, Marcus and Daniel shared a proposal. They wanted to create a foundation, a program offering legal and emotional support to veterans whose service records were disputed or whose medals were questioned. "We've seen how complicated the system can be," Daniel explained. "If we can help even a few people avoid what you went through, it's worth it." Olivia felt a surge of purpose. "Yes," she said softly. "Let's do it." They spent weeks drafting plans, meeting with lawyers and community leaders. Donations began to arrive from across the country, many accompanied by handwritten notes of gratitude. The foundation would be called the Silver Promise, a name suggested by Maria. Its mission: to protect the honor of those who served and to ensure their stories were never erased by clerical errors or overlooked by bureaucracy. A chance meeting one afternoon. As Olivia left a speaking engagement in Norfolk, she encountered a familiar figure on the courthouse steps, Judge Raymond Cole. He approached slowly, his black robe replaced by a plain gray suit. For a moment they stood in the quiet shadow of the building where their paths had first crossed. "Ms. Bennett," he began, his voice low, "I wanted to speak with you." Olivia met his eyes, calm and steady. "Judge Cole, I have followed the Navy's review," he continued. "It is clear now that my decision was too narrow. I focused only on the letter of the law and failed to see the greater justice. For that I am sorry." The words hung in the air. Olivia studied his face, noting the strain around his eyes. She thought of the months of tension, the letters of criticism he must have received. "I appreciate your words," she said finally. "The process was hard, but it revealed the truth. That matters more than anything." Cole gave a small nod. "I am taking a leave of absence to reflect on how I serve the law. I hope in time I can earn back the trust I have lost." They parted without bitterness. Olivia felt no triumph, only a quiet understanding that growth sometimes came from the hardest lessons. Looking forward. By summer, the Silver Promise Foundation was fully active. Volunteers helped veterans gather records, file appeals, and find legal support. Olivia often worked late into the evening, reading letters from service members who had felt forgotten. Each story reminded her why the fight for truth mattered. One night, after a long meeting, she returned to the shoreline near her home. The moonlight stretched across the calm water, the same place where she had walked during her darkest hours. Now the air felt lighter, the horizon wide with possibility. She thought of the villagers rescued years ago, of Marcus and Daniel, of Maria, of Admiral McKenna and the countless strangers who had believed in her. She thought even of Judge Cole, whose unexpected apology showed that people could change. Her father's words echoed once more. "Finish what you start." She smiled, realizing that while one battle had ended, her mission to protect honor had only begun. As a soft breeze moved over the bay, Olivia whispered to herself, "The truth stands, always." The summer sun rose gently over the Chesapeake Bay, painting the water in shades of gold and pale blue. Olivia Bennett stood on her back porch, a mug of coffee warming her hands. Months had passed since the Navy hearing, yet every morning still felt new, as if life had opened a fresh chapter she had never imagined. The Silver Promise Foundation had grown faster than anyone expected. What began as a quiet idea among friends was now a respected organization with volunteers across the country. Newspapers carried stories of veterans whose honors were restored, of families who found comfort in knowing their loved one's service was finally recognized. Olivia's phone buzzed constantly with messages of gratitude. Still, she remained humble. Whenever someone called her a hero, she gently shook her head. "I only did what was right," she would say. To her, the true heroes were the many men and women who kept serving in silence. Morning at the center on a bright Tuesday, Olivia drove to the new Silver Promise headquarters, a renovated brick building near the harbor. Inside, the smell of fresh paint mixed with the aroma of brewing coffee. Volunteers greeted her with cheerful waves. Marcus Hill was already there, leaning over a large map dotted with colorful pins. Daniel Reed sat beside him, typing notes on a laptop. "Morning, Liv," Marcus said with a grin. We've got requests from 5 more states this week, and a school in Colorado wants you to speak at their Veterans Day assembly. Daniel looked up. Also, a documentary filmmaker wants to follow one of our cases. They say your story inspired the project. Olivia smiled, though the attention still surprised her. Let's focus on the veterans first, she replied. They are the reason we're here. They spent the morning reviewing files. A Marine whose service medal was lost in a fire, an Air Force pilot whose records were misfiled, a Coast Guard rescue swimmer seeking recognition for a daring mission. Each case carried its own weight, each a reminder of sacrifice and persistence. Letters of hope. After lunch, Olivia retreated to her small office to read the latest letters. One envelope caught her eye, a child's handwriting in blue crayon. Inside was a simple note. Dear Ms. Bennett, my grandpa was in the Army. He died before they gave him his medal. Thank you for helping people like him. Love, Emma. A lump formed in Olivia's throat. She placed the letter on her desk beside her silver star. Moments like these gave every long day its meaning. Another letter came from a retired Navy captain in Alaska. He wrote that after seeing Olivia's story, he found the courage to challenge a decades-old mistake in his own record. You reminded me that honor is worth the fight, he concluded. Olivia leaned back, letting the quiet gratitude wash over her. These voices, young and old, were the real proof that their work mattered. An unexpected visitor. Late that afternoon, the doorbell at headquarters chimed. Olivia stepped into the lobby and stopped short. Standing there, hat in hand, was Judge Raymond Cole. He looked older than she remembered, the lines around his eyes deeper, his posture slightly stooped. Yet his presence carried a quiet dignity. Judge Cole, Olivia said softly. Ms. Bennett, he replied, his voice measured but gentle. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all. Please come in. They sat in a small conference room, sunlight slanting across the polished table. For a moment, silence filled the space. I wanted to see your work for myself, Cole began. After our last meeting, I stepped away from the bench. I've been volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping veterans navigate their cases. Your example played a part in that decision. Olivia listened without interruption. I came today not for forgiveness. I know that is yours to give or withhold, but to say thank you. You showed me that law without compassion is incomplete. His words held no pretense, only sincerity. Olivia felt a calm respect for the man who had once caused her so much struggle. Judge Cole, she said, we all learn in our own time. I'm glad you chose to help others. That's what matters. They parted with a quiet handshake, no bitterness, just the shared understanding that people can grow and change. A national stage as autumn approached. The Silver Promise received an invitation. From the White House, the president planned a ceremony honoring organizations that supported veterans' rights and wished to recognize their work. On the day of the event, Olivia stood in the East Room beneath glittering chandeliers. Dignitaries and military families filled the space. When her name was called, she stepped forward, the silver star pinned proudly on her jacket. The president smiled warmly. Ms. Bennett, your perseverance reminds us that honor cannot be lost when it lives in the heart. Your foundation has restored dignity to countless service members. On behalf of the nation, thank you. Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed, but Olivia's mind drifted to the faces of her team, the veterans they had helped, and the quiet evenings by the bay. This recognition, while humbling, belonged to everyone who believed in justice. Homecoming, a week later, Olivia returned to her hometown for a celebration organized by her neighbors. The community center was decorated with blue and gold ribbons. Children waved small American flags as she entered. Maria Thompson greeted her with a wide smile. We're so proud of you, Liv. You showed the whole country what one determined person can do. Olivia thanked everyone, then took a moment to speak. This isn't just my story, she said. It's about every service member who gave their best and deserves to be remembered with truth. It's about families who never stop supporting them, and it's about each of you, for standing by those who serve. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Olivia's parents, eyes shining, held hands in the front row. That evening, a local choir sang Beneath the Stars, their voices carrying across the quiet streets. Olivia felt the deep connection of community, stronger than any medal or headline. Quiet reflection winter approached with crisp winds and bright nights. One evening, Olivia walked along the shoreline, the moon casting silver light on the calm water. She carried the silver star in her pocket, feeling its familiar weight. Her thoughts wandered to the mission years ago when she had led her team through danger to save strangers across the ocean. She remembered the fear, the courage, the unspoken bond among teammates. She thought of the painful months when a single court order threatened to erase it all, and of the unexpected allies who helped her fight. Marcus, Daniel, Maria, the young volunteers, the veterans who shared their stories, even Judge Cole, each had played a part. The medal was no longer just hers. It symbolized every lesson learned, that justice needs persistence, that honor survives challenge, and that healing often begins with forgiveness. She whispered into the night, "We finished what we started." "Dad," the gentle sound of waves answered. A future of service in the years that followed. The silver promise expanded to every state. Olivia continued to guide the foundation, though she insisted it remain a team effort. She mentored younger leaders, encouraging them to carry the mission forward. Marcus eventually became director of operations. Daniel led outreach programs for military families. Maria organized national fundraising events. Together they built a network of support that reached far beyond what they had first imagined. Universities invited Olivia to speak about ethics and leadership. She accepted some offers but always returned home to the bay, where peace and purpose met in the sound of the tide. Lasting legacy. On the 10th anniversary of the foundation, a grand gathering filled a large hall in Washington, D.C. Veterans, families, and volunteers shared stories of victories, medals restored, service records corrected, lives changed. At the close of the evening, Marcus invited Olivia to the stage. The crowd rose, applause echoing like a soft storm. Olivia looked out at the faces before her, diverse, determined, grateful. She spoke simply. "When I first stood before a judge who doubted my service, I thought the fight was only about a piece of metal. But it became something bigger. It became about truth, about every person who gives their best even when no one is watching. That truth can't be taken away. It lives on in each of you." The hall grew quiet, the kind of silence that carries meaning. Then the applause returned, stronger, filled with shared hope. Peace by the bay. Late that night, back at her home, Olivia placed the silver star on her mantle. The metal gleamed softly in the lamplight, a reminder of journeys past and missions yet to come. Outside, the Chesapeake stretched wide and calm. The stars above mirrored the silver on her shelf. Olivia closed her eyes, breathing the cool air, feeling gratitude for the winding path that had brought her here. Her life had moved far beyond the moment when a judge tried to take her honor. What remained was something no court could touch: the unbreakable bond of service, the quiet strength of truth, and a legacy that would guide countless others. The tide whispered against the shore, steady and endless. Olivia smiled, knowing the work would continue long after her footsteps faded. Honor, once fought for, would forever shine.